What's going on there, folks? Earthmaster here on this Monday evening, September 28th, 2020 is the date today. Time just about 7 p.m. West Coast time here. And taking a look at the Earthquake 3D globe here. Shows the latest earthquake activity over the world, the Earth, over the last 24 hours or so, with the 4.3 up there in Alaska being the latest earthquake. We're going to jump back over to that here in just a minute, but I kind of want to go into a little bit more information when it comes to the potential for some Aurora viewing tonight, over the next couple nights actually, along the northern states, and also potentially down into parts of Oregon and Idaho area, Montana as well. This here is the forecast from SolarHam, showing the 30-minute aurora forecast here. You guys can kind of see the specifics of the aurora right here. This is kind of a guesstimate of where this may take place. Now this is going to amplify as we get into nightfall. I know we got the sun over here still along the west coast. It's still pretty light out here, but I'm thinking right around in a couple hours or so in these northern states right around Montana, parts of Idaho, and potentially into parts of Oregon, we could see some viewing of the auroras out there. Now here's another different map of it. It doesn't give you the specific states down here, but you can see how potentially far the auroral may head down here into the United States here. It's a pretty good size storm kicking off right now from the solar wind. It's definitely not due to a solar flare or anything. It's more or less due to a coronal hole that's kicking up some pretty good size wind speed at the moment. And it's geomagnetic storm class 2, which is kind of like a moderate sized storm. It's pretty much a disturbance in the Earth's magnetic field occurring when a coronal mass ejection, which is sometimes known as a CME, or high-speed solar wind, sweeps past Earth pretty quickly. And it's somewhat difficult to predict when these things hit Earth. We're kind of looking at an early arrival this evening. So that's kind of why I'm kind of focusing a little bit on this update tonight about the aurora potentially reaching some states there. These storms are kicking off some pretty pinkish color skies there in the northern parts there of, or at least southern parts of Canada area, northern parts of Canada as well. But it's something I would, if I lived up there in Montana area, Wyoming, Washington, parts of Oregon, all these northern states up here, I would be on the lookout this evening. If you have clear skies and a clear view of the horizon with no city lights. Of course, city lights are horrible. Light pollution out here in California has gone, oh my gosh, you don't even know. I'm so irritated lately because we have a bunch of new industrial stuff popping up here around my area, and it's ruined the nighttime sky. But if you live out there, out in the country, away from those city lights, and you got a clear view of the northern skies without any huge mountains blocking your view, there's a good chance that you could see this aurora tonight. Now, G2 class storm is moderate. The ranges, pretty much the storm ranges range from a G1 to a G5. So this is not an extreme event, but it is a moderate type storm, and I wouldn't pass up on this event at all if I lived up there. So if you got time and it's not super cold where you live at, it's really not super winter out here anyway, so get out there, go check it out. Maybe bring your long exposure camera out there on a tripod if you can, and see if you can catch some of these beautiful northern lights that may coming down into the northern regions of the United States. Canada, this area, you're looking at a guarantee. Solar winds have been up above 600 or so, I believe. What's the current wind speed out there right now? Let's see where that's at. Speed ranging Of course, yeah, what do we got? Right around 600 or so. It's pretty consistent. And there's the KP index right there, pretty strong. Getting up there. I know last night, this is kind of last night right here. You can see that activity there. We're heading into that region once again here. A moderate K2 geomagnetic storm heading into the region there. G2, not K2. Did I say K2? G2. Here's the forecast. We got a 3-day forecast of the geomagnetic forecast here. September 29th, right? September 30th, and of course it dies down a little bit. So tonight, get out there, folks. Mid-latitudes, high latitudes. Here's your forecast right there. Detailed forecast in this area. Not going to go through the specifics, but it's definitely worth heading out there tonight if you can. And it's due to this large coronal hole kind of facing this. It looks like the analysis of it's going to begin to turn away from Earth over the next couple days. A solar wind stream just above 600 km continues to move past our planet and should contribute to periods of geomagnetic storming during the next 24 to 48 hours there. So there you go. A little bit of solar flaring going on right there. Not a whole lot, but kind of interesting to see. I do like to see solar flares. Some minor stuff going on there. Not for sure exactly what the forecast calls for in the area. Hold on one second here before solar flares go. Yeah, all pretty minor for any type of solar flaring from the sun. So get out there, folks. Check it out. There's a strong X flare back in 2012. I don't know if I remember that or not. I don't know. X flares are pretty uncommon. Those are the ones that kind of we have to watch, especially when they get a little bit bigger there. But that was directed away from Earth. Eventually, we're going to get popped one of these days with a pretty good flare, and we're not going to be able to even watch YouTube. Who knows? But yeah, just could be one of those things. So, shooting over here to the earthquake department, away from the solar weather here, looking at California. We are seeing a pretty large increase in activity around the Bay Area of San Francisco. They're in Central California. I do not consider this Northern Cal. I live here in Northern California. For us, the cutoff is, for us folks here in the north, the cutoff is Sacramento. We can pretty much draw a line from Lake Tahoe area. Sacramento does not count. We shoot that down south, and then San Francisco. So that's Central California down there, whether you like it or not. That's what us folks like to call it. So activity picking up, ramping up out here, not on the San Andreas fault system, but over here along the Hayward fault, and also down here along the Calaveras fault system. You can see that activity right there in a swarming type fashion here. This is a pretty good cluster of quakes here along the Calaveras fault system, and obviously not only with this swarming going on here, but the activity throughout the region tells me that there's a pretty good increase with the latest earthquake there at 2.0 near Pittsburgh, California. It tells me right there a pretty good increase in pressure out here along the Bay Area. These are some pretty sensitive fault systems out here. Of course, 1906, we've seen the last major fault out here, or the last major quake along the San Andreas fault pop, which created some, well, havoc out there. If that happened today, I don't know. I don't even know what would happen. I don't even want to think about it. It'd be pretty crazy and chaotic, but it's going to happen eventually in the future. Hayward fault, Calaveras fault system, very capable of producing some major quakes out there and in some highly populated regions. This activity out here near the Calaveras Reservoir is just a small amount away, or a couple miles away from some super highly populated region, which I care not to visit. San Jose, Santa Clara, Milpitas, all this area, junk. Not a good fan, not a big fan of this region. Too populated for me, but there is people out there. There's human lives at stake when if we were to see a major earthquake out there in this region. 3 miles near this pretty good sized fault out here is not too far. So kind of monitoring, watching that area very closely. There is some swarming, like I mentioned, there in the Bay Area. We don't see it all that often, but when we do, it's definitely noticeable, like we're seeing this evening here. Also, the Salton Sea area seeing some swarming going on. Not a huge cluster, folks, but definitely a good-sized handful of microquakes there, ranging right around 1.0 or so. Nothing really bigger than that. I think 1.8 is being the largest quake there in that region. And that's another sign of some obvious pressure increase. The latest quake here in this region being a little 0.9 there near Bombay. Excuse me. And that's outside of the San Andreas fault system, and it looks like just outside of this little power line fault, which is kind of weird. I don't even know if I've heard of that before, but definitely some activity occurring at the southern end of the San Andreas fault, better known, at least in this section here, as the Brawley seismic zone. And that's something to watch, folks. I mean, we're seeing a lot of activity out here along the west coast, when we're seeing swarming up here in the central part of the state, and also down here in the south, right along, or at least in and around the San Andreas fault system. It's something to watch very, very closely. The activity near the San Jacinto fault area has calmed down somewhat, so it looks as though migration and pressure may be further increasing on the very sensitive areas over here to the east. Once we start seeing movement over here along the west, that tells us right there that this area right here cannot handle any more pressure. It's pretty much locked, and then we increase pressure over here towards the eastern part. That's kind of what we're looking at right now over the last 24 hours. I don't know why they're blasting some stuff down there. 1.8 near boron, outside of the borax. Boron and borax, isn't that some type of chemical? Wow. Kind of some odd names there. Little query blast. 1.8 on the Richter scale. Pretty good blast there. Not for sure how much dynamite they use, but pretty good amount. Nevada region still looking pretty active. Of course, this is never ending. 2.6 being the earthquake, or at least the latest earthquake there in the map. And that's just continual. It's been happening for quite some time. Northern California, relatively quiet here in this region. Little small quake here. Look at that. A 1.6 in the severe level right there. I'm not even going to click on that. Near Biggs, California, Gridley. Someone out there in the rocking chair not doing too good tonight. Maybe had too much to drink. Who knows? But yeah, that's absolutely crazy. So yeah, you guys can pretty much look at this map and see a pretty good swarm of pressure and earthquake activity out here in the northwest, as well as through the Intermountain West of Nevada, and obviously along the west coast of California right there. Idaho seems to be picking up tonight. No major quakes there, no moderate quakes at all, just some 2-pointers, a bunch of 1s as well. And up here in Washington, a little increase in activity around Mount Rainier. You can see a little loop right here. And the closest one to the region looks to be about a 0.6 there outside of the summit region at a depth that's pretty shallow. Negative 0.9 kilometers there, but it's hard to say exactly what's going on in that region. But I don't believe it's volcanic at all. The tremor map tells us what's going on up there in the Pacific Northwest, and you can see a little bit of activity picking up along the Cascadia subduction zone. An increase from last night. There was nothing at all. I mean, we can go back and show you guys real quick the map from last night there, September 27th. Nothing. 0 tremors being recorded. So we shoot to tonight, the latest tremor map here. Obviously an increase along this region here of southwest Washington, northwest Oregon. Kind of putting some pressure out there along the surface, and I believe that's what we're seeing due to the tremor activity there around Mount Rainier there at the surface, as far as surface quakes go. The rest of the globe, as I mentioned there, around the Aleutian Trench area, I've seen some pretty good swarming. Well, I wouldn't say swarming, but moderate quakes out there. This has kind of calmed down a little bit from last night, but not completely. Latest quake there in that region of 4.3. Globally, over here towards the west, this is all, I would say, definitely below average earthquake activity out here. Just some sporadic quakes. The deep earthquake activity around the Fiji Islands area has calmed down. Over here around Greece, still seeing some earthquake activity there. We can go back a few days and we can see the pretty good cluster of quakes there just northeast of Greece here, out in the north. And somebody did correct me on that. I seen your comment. Aegean trough, and I believe I pronounced that right. Woo! Maybe. We'll see. A few 4s and whatnot popping off in the region, including a 5.3, but it looks as though for now, activity kind of quieting down there in that region. I got to shoot back over here to the United States here real quick. We're a little earthquake struck over here around the New Madrid fault zone. We have to bring back the all magnitudes here to check out this activity around the Missouri area. 1.9 earthquake there. It looks like prior to that, looks like yesterday there was a 1.8 around the New Madrid fault region. If we bring up the U.S. hazard, you can see that's right smack dab in the hazard area for the a major quake out there in the New Madrid. But it's not uncommon to see some small microquakes around that region. So no fear, no fear-mongering, no panic. Just noteworthy mention of some microquakes going on out there in that region. What do we got here, folks? I really want you guys, if you can, to get out there. If you live in the northern parts there, I'm talking, you know, I don't know how good Oregon's going to see it, but definitely, if I were to draw a line out here, I would say pretty much from central Washington down into portions of southern Montana, and of course North Dakota, Minnesota area. Could definitely see the possibility of the auroras tonight, the northern lights. It's something that I've been wanting to witness forever. I went up to Alaska a couple years ago during the wintertime specifically to see the northern lights up there. Unfortunately, it was cloudy, overcast, cold as heck, and no solar activity, no geomagnetic disturbances up there at the time. So, I mean, I was up there at Fairbanks, and I really, really wanted to see some northern lights, but it didn't happen. So, get out there if you can. Let me know, comment if you do happen to see it. You know, maybe you can always leave some pictures or video on my Facebook page if you do happen to catch some pretty cool sights up there. I don't know what the weather's like up there in Montana right now, North Dakota, Washington region, but check it out. That's all I'm going to say. You definitely may see something up there. Low on the horizon towards the north, folks. Earthquake history, I checked that out real quick. There's not a whole lot on it. I do got to go over here to the USGS map to see it. That's for tomorrow. Let's go over here to the 28th. View the date real quick. And all it says, and this is really weird because I can't find a whole lot of information on it, is a M, Sandusky Bay, Ohio. When I type in any type of earthquake activity back in 1883, I cannot find a whole lot of information on that at all. There's some stuff from 1883, but not specifically on this date. So this is pretty much a dud in my book when it comes to earthquake history on this date. Not for sure why, but USGS, come on, fix that. That's kind of not good. Anyway, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Please subscribe, like, and share the video if you can. Very cool site to monitor if you're interested in watching the solar activity, wind speed, and whatnot. Is solarham.net. Also, spaceweather.com is another cool site to monitor the space weather out there. They got some pretty cool pictures and whatnot of the Aurora Borealis over the past couple nights, and I would suggest looking at it if you get the chance. So have a good night, folks. We are out of here. Yeah, there's a map once again of the potential Northern Lights area. That green dark line there indicating the furthest south that you may be able to see it. And that includes, like I said, Central Oregon. Looks like Bend northward, parts of Idaho, definitely Wyoming, even into, looks like parts of, what is that, Nebraska, Kansas region maybe? Not guaranteed, but you definitely want to get out there and take a look if you have clear skies tonight. And I'm thinking here within the next couple hours, I know it's dark over there right now, but it does take a little bit of time for the aurora to amp up in the atmosphere due to the solar wind. And I'm thinking here in a couple hours there, you guys should be able to see it there in those regions. So stay safe. We will chat you guys a little bit later. Have a good night.